Fielder. Thank you for coming to our channel. This is Xuemo community. Here we are mainly talking about the mindology and philosophy found in the works by the Chinese writer Mr. Xuemo. Xuemo was born in Western China. Is one of the most prolific and inspiring contemporary writer, and he has won the international recognition. We attended the international book fairs like the Frankfurt Book Fair, the London Book Fair, the Guadalajara International Book Fair, and the Mexico Book Fair for many years. And we all have our own booth. And just in March, we are invited to give speech in 4 universities in London, and also invited to give a talk during the Oxford Literary Festival in Oxford University. Hi, hello, welcome to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe to our channel, and thank you for your support. So today's live stream is probably going to be a little different from some of the previous ones, because recently I've been going through a period with a lot of inner challenges. Why I say it is inner challenges? Because all these difficulties are happening in the thought. I can realize that. I'm aware of that. So inner challenges, the external world and my physical body, and nothing happens, but only the challenge from the thought, the false thought. So not physically tired, but emotionally and mentally tired, and feeling down, sometimes up, sometimes maybe inspired by someone or some little things and some books, some stories, but just going through up and downs. And speaking about the book and the story that inspired me for some time, that book actually stays on my bookshelf for a long time, and I bought that book just to support our channel, but I don't think I'm going to read it, although I know it is a really good book, and I think it is nothing to do with my own life, and all my rest life are about Xuemo culture and Xuemo mindology, and my main thing is to focus on promoting the culture. So I never opened that book because I have read so many books in my life. About 20 years, I read 60 to 80 books every year. And I know that if you only become knowledgeable and your mind is very open and you know much more than the others, and it builds your perception. Your conscious is much more higher and wider than like your neighbors, your surrounding peoples, and your perspective is higher. Your recognition is much higher. The reading takes you this, but also I also realized that if the knowledge don't translate that into your daily life, then it will benefit your life very small, very little. But after coming into the academy, and my best friend here, Wendy, recommend me again and again that she says you need to read that book, The Milarepa. You must read it. You must read it. I say I have that book, but I can't find it, and for many times because I face many challenges here, and sometimes like I can't. I feel down, and every time Wendy will say, "Hey, you should read Milarepa." But I think that book has nothing to do with my life because Milarepa is a master. I know these masters they can conquer a lot in their life. They suffer a lot, and that has nothing to do with my life. I'm not that strong. I'm not going to be that kind of master. Oh, but recently, something just hit me hard enough. Really hit me hard. So when I come to the academy, I think it is my home, and like I finally found my father who I can rely on. And the only one he give you the ultimate peacefulness, peace, the ultimate peace to you that you have searched for your whole life. And the feeling was never given by your parents, by my parents, or by my closest family members. So this man give me the ultimate peace, sense of peace. And when this man says that, you should rely on yourself. You need to be independent. So forget about this and let's share the feeling and my feeling when I reading the Life of Milarepa. I bought it a long time ago. Um, I never truly read it because deep inside, I always felt that Milarepa was someone too extraordinary, a great accomplished practitioner, someone with unimaginable endurance and determination. And I always thought that kind of story belongs to someone else, not to me. And recently I am going through repeated emotional struggles, confusion, disappointment, and inner collapse. So I opened the book, The Life of Milarepa. It is not just a story of a religious master. It is a story of how a human being survives repeatedly destruction without giving up the path. And honestly, I think many people today can relate to that feeling. You finally build something inside yourself, and suddenly life tears it apart again. You finally feel emotionally stable, and then another emotional storm comes. You finally think you understand something, and then reality immediately tests you. And sometimes the hardest part is not even the suffering itself. The hardest part is the confusion, the feeling of not understanding why things are happening, the feeling of wanting answers but not receiving any. Hi, Payam. Welcome. Hi, Sergio. Hello, welcome. Hi. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. So, recently, while reading The Life of Milarepa, I don't know if Milarepa is well known in India. Anyone knows Milarepa? Yeah, good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for asking. How are you? So the story of Milarepa hit me especially deeply. It is the famous story where Milarepa keeps building houses for his teacher, Marpa, only to have them destroyed again and again. At first, it sounds almost unreasonable. Milarepa works desperately, hard carrying stones, moving earth, building with all his effort, and just when the house is halfway complete, Marpa suddenly changes his mind and tells him to tear everything down. Good. Hi, Sergio. Thank you for your kind words. Uh, I bought it in local shop, so I don't think you can buy it because I'm not buy it, but buy it online. So every time when the house is halfway complete, Marpa suddenly changes his mind and tells him to tear everything down. Then Milarepa starts over again. And once again, after enormous effort, the teacher changes the instructions again and again. And while reading in this time, I suddenly realized that this story is actually not only about Milarepa, it is about every human being who walks through deep inner transformation. Because real growth is rarely smooth. Most of the time, it feels like repeated collapse, repeated confusion, repeated rebuilding, repeated surrender of ego. In this story, I'm reflecting on many things I'm going through. The grievances, the sadness, the feeling of emotional exhaustion, the feeling of wanting to run away. And at the same time, I also slowly started understanding something else. Maybe suffering itself is not the real problem. Not maybe, but I'm aware that the suffering comes only from the thoughts, but not real challenge in external world. So the real problem is my mind become completely covered by deluded thoughts, like dark clouds covering the sky. The clear sky itself never disappeared. But once emotions become too heavy, we just temporarily forget the own nature, true nature. So I've been going through my emotions and the inner challenge these days. Yes, if you have anything you want to talk about, you can leave your message. Okay, so the book I I'm reading this time recently, The Life of Milarepa was so what's happening here? So I bought this book, The Life of Milarepa, a long time ago. But I never really sat down to read it seriously. Part partly because Xuemo's own books are already so many that I can barely keep up. And partly because I always felt that books like The Life of Milarepa belongs to people who were much stronger than me. Hello, Ju and Ju. Hello, welcome. Why are you asking this question? You know, Wendy. So I used to think that maybe I was, maybe I was not the kind of person who could endure that level of hardship and achieve that kind of realization. After I came to the academy, Wendy kept recommending this book to me again and again. She recommended it many times, but I still kept delaying it. Because deep inside, I always felt that Milarepa was too far away from someone like me. But after staying here for some time, I slowly realized that psychological challenges are actually very real. Sometimes the difficult part is not the work itself, the difficult part is what happens inside your heart. Sometimes there is confusion, sometimes there is disappointment, sometimes there is sadness or grievance that you cannot fully explain. Sometimes you feel that you already tried very hard, but suddenly everything changes again. And then you start wanting answers. Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? Why was something suddenly overturned again? Why does distance suddenly disappear? So when I read The Life of Milarepa, I suddenly realized that the emotional state described in the book felt almost exactly the same as what I was experiencing. So what Milarepa is suffer is much more, much more than me. Okay, actually, I can roughly understand your message because you're in Cantonese. But Wendy is not here. I'm Joanna, but welcome. Please subscribe to our channel. So, especially the part where Milarepa keeps building houses only to have them torn down again and again, that feeling hit me very deeply. Because sometimes life really feels like that. You finally build something with great effort, and suddenly it is destroyed. You finally think things are becoming stable, and then another change comes. You finally think you found direction, and suddenly you feel lost again. And the hardest part is not even the exhaustion. The hardest part is that you often do not even understand why things are happening. You cannot hold on to a clear explanation. You can only keep moving forward. My name is Joanna. Hi, Joanna. But honestly, Milarepa, this kind of great master's endurance was much stronger than mine. I cannot compare to them. This kind of masters like Milarepa, like my teacher Xuemo, they could continue rebuilding no matter how many times things collapsed. While I will feel like a completely deflated balloon. Suddenly, all my energy disappears. Sometimes I do not even want to deal with anything anymore. Outwardly, I may look still normal, but inside, I already feel exhausted. So I picked this book and read it, and I feel the same feeling what Milarepa is suffering. Yeah, Joanna, Joanna. Yeah, and I also started understanding the deeper intention behind the teacher's action. Because before this, I had already read the sentence many times, understand the profound meaning behind every appearance, and understand the compassionate intention of the guru. Before I thought I understood this sentence, at least intellectually, I understood it. And during ordinary small challenges, you may also feel that you already understand it. But later I realized that real understanding is much more difficult than intellectual understanding. So, real understanding is much more difficult than intellectual understanding. And because true challenge test you when your emotions collapse, when you feel hurt, when you feel lost, when you feel misunderstood, can you still continue understanding at that moment? That is the truly difficult part. So recently, my understanding of this sentence has become much deeper. Sometimes I even feel that many things we think we understand are only things we know in theory. But real understanding is what still remains after life has hit you hard. And maybe true growth is not about constantly being affirmed. Maybe it is about whether you can still stand up again after being overturned again and again. Can you still continue walking? Can you still continue believing? Can you keep your heart from being completely swallowed by emotion? I think the greatest strength this book gave me is not the idea of suffering itself. It is the realization that a person can actually walk through enormous confusion, pain, disappointment, and uncertainty without completely collapsing. And strangely, that realization gave me a very quiet kind of strength, not an excited or emotional strength, but a quiet feeling that maybe I can still continue moving forward. So I want to share this part with everyone because sometimes the most important thing about reading is not knowledge. Sometimes a book simply appears at the exact moment when your life needs it most. And actually, this period has become a very important turning point in my life because for me, my teacher is not simply someone who teaches knowledge or methods. He is the refuge of my soul and the only one. Not my parents, not my closest friend, not my closest family member, but my teacher is the only refuge of my soul. And honestly speaking, my interest in ordinary worldly things has already become very, very weak before I come to academy. And that is also why I come to the academy. I do not really care anymore about the usual things people pursue. So when the one person who supports your soul suddenly makes you feel maybe you should not depend on me anymore. For me, that feeling is extremely painful. It is not just an emotional discomfort. It feels like the ground beneath your inner world suddenly disappears. So at one point, I was seriously thinking about leaving the academy. Hi, unlimited imposter. Hello, welcome. Thank you for your time coming by. Thank you for your support. So at one point, I was seriously thinking about leaving the academy, but I didn't even know where to go. I already I, I I still have my house, my apartment, mm, and I also have the ability to earn a lot of money running the business and maybe buy another one, but I really don't know where to go. It felt like there was no road ahead. And when a person feels wronged, disappointed, and exhausted, part of the mind naturally starts thinking, maybe I should just leave. Because staying feels painful, but leaving also feels empty. And maybe because I had sincerely prayed before, I once prayed that no matter what happened, I hoped I would still be held onto and guided on this path. So somehow, even during the hardest moments, there was still some invisible strength supporting me. Sometimes it came from through reading, sometimes it came through certain words from someone, and sometimes it felt like something beyond words entirely. Yes, something beyond words. I cannot fully explain it, but somehow I just didn't completely fall apart. And this morning, when I woke up, something suddenly felt different. Even during breakfast, I was still thinking, I really cannot handle this kind of daily labor anymore. Because honestly, there is a lot of work here. And when I get emotionally hurt, my instinct instinct is actually to hide away quietly for a while. At least when I was free before, I could stay in my own bed, stop doing everything for a day or two, and slowly recover in my own way. But here, there is not really that much space to fully withdraw and recover. Life keeps moving, the work continues, the training continues. And strangely enough, despite all of this, something inside me suddenly became very certain. I felt that I should stay, and not only stay, but continue walking this path seriously. And deep inside, I feel that this choice must be the correct one. Because before all of this, cultivation and realization still felt like concepts that belonged to someone else's life. I used to feel that those things had nothing to do with me personally. But after going through these kinds of inner challenges, I suddenly feel that maybe I am actually standing somewhere on this road too, not because I became strong overnight, and definitely not because my heart started being fragile. Honestly, like, I still feel like I have a very fragile heart sometimes. I still get hurt easily. I still struggle emotionally, but at the same time, there is now another feeling growing quietly underneath all of that, a kind of certainty, a feeling that this road is probably the right road after all. And maybe the real faith is not the absence of pain or weakness. Maybe it is continuing to walk even while carrying all of those things. So when I read the Life of Milarepa now, I no longer feel that it is just an ancient story about someone extraordinary. It feels strangely connected to my real life, especially the part about being repeatedly broken down and rebuilt. Because maybe that is exactly how inner transformation really happens. And our teacher, my teacher, is a very extraordinary person, not extraordinary in the worldly sense, not because of status, fame, or external power, but because there is a kind of ability in him that does not belong to ordinary people at all. Sometimes I genuinely feel that even one look from him can completely change the direction of my destiny. not in some dramatic fantasy like way, but in a very real inner sense. Because sometimes one sentence from him can overturn years of your own thinking. Sometimes one reaction from him can expose the deepest attachment hidden inside you. So I think big, the biggest challenge for me currently is his reaction exposed the deepest attachment hidden inside me. So this is really tough and hard. For me, currently, I really am not really sure if I can insist on staying here. He sees through what is happening inside you much, much more clearly than you do yourself. And especially when you realizing that many things are not accidental at all. And what makes even a little interesting is in everyday life, he really does not look like the kind of master people usually imagine. Honestly, he feels more like an ordinary father from the countryside. The same outlook as my father. Very simple, like a farmer in the countryside, very grounded. Even when speaking, he often does not bother using elegant or polished language. He just speaks in an extremely direct way, almost rough, many times in the daily life. And I joke to myself that maybe he already used all his literary talent inside his books. Because when you read his writing, the depth, beauty, and insight are completely different. But in daily life, he can suddenly say something in the plainest possible way. And at first, when I'm criticized or scolded, it does not feel profound at all. At that time, it just hurts, and I will feel wronged, feel confused, feel emotionally crushed. Sometimes I even feel that you cannot understand him at all. But later, after some time passes, when you calm down and look back again, you will suddenly begin to realize that behind many of those criticisms, there was actually an incredibly deep intention hidden there. And when you finally glimpse even a tiny bit of that deeper meaning, your entire perspective changes. You suddenly realize that he was never simply venting emotion. He was seeing something much bigger than your current emotional state. He was trying to break something. Sometimes pride, sometimes dependency, sometimes illusion, sometimes the false version of yourself that you have been protecting for years. And I think the hardest part for me personally is the dependency on him that he is trying to break. when you realize this, it suddenly feels completely different. So teacher is actually unbelievably powerful, even cruel beyond words. Yes, that is my true feeling. Hi, I see the message from Unlimited Imposter. Are you still there? Let me know so I can let's talk about it. Let me know if you're still there. I just see your message. So ordinary people only comfort your emotions, but the one, especially your teacher who truly wants to grow, may sometimes destroy the things that are blocking your growth. And that process does not always feel gentle. Actually, many times it feels very painful. But strangely, after surviving those moments, you slowly start understanding why such methods exist. And maybe that is also why books like The Life of Milarepa suddenly feel so real to me now. Oh, see my struggle. Thank you for your caring. Wow, so many messages. Let me see. So unlimited imposter message. Let me review it quickly. They don't care about why you feel shy. Don't really see no one is watching, see that. Should be think that what even I'm doing with my can I finish my sharing and then read your message? So many. Sorry. So I'm talking, sharing the feeling after reading the Life of Milarepa. And before those stories sounded distant and legendary, but now I suddenly realize that inner transformation may genuinely require this kind of repeated breaking and rebuilding. And maybe that is why great teachers throughout history often looked in, incomprehensible from the outside, because they were not simply trying to make people feel comfort, they were trying to awaken something much deeper. Uh, Someone manipulation of my soul barrier. Not sure. Seeing your struggle. I think this sentence is enough. Seeing my struggle. Thank you. This support. Thank you. Sometimes seeing is much more important. So while I am reading the book The Life of Milarepa, I also started to reflecting on many things that happened to me during these past 8 months. Because honestly, during the first half year after I came here, I was actually treated very harshly by quite a few people. Not just strict in the normal sense. Sometimes it genuinely felt difficult emotionally. But strangely enough, at that time, I kept telling myself that it was fine. I truly believed there was no problem because I assumed that maybe this environment was simply like this for everyone. So I accepted it very naturally. I just continued working, enduring, adapting, and trying to improve myself. At that time, I did not even think too much about fairness. But recently, something suddenly touched a very deep place inside me. I noticed that when some newer people arrived, the teacher would intentionally keep them, protect them in certain ways, almost preventing those stronger personalities from bullying or suppressing them. And when I saw this, something inside me suddenly felt extremely wronged. Because in that moment, I suddenly realized something very painful. The teacher actually could protect people. He was capable of doing that. But back then, that protection was never given to me. And honestly, for a while, that made me feel as though maybe I was somehow less worthy, as if I was not valuable enough to be protected, as if I was the kind of person who could simply be left there to endure everything alone. And that feeling hurt very deeply. Because when people suffer hardship equally, it is one thing. And when you suddenly realize different people are being treated differently, the emotional impact becomes very different. At first, I really could not get past that feeling. But then while reading The Life of Milarepa, something slowly began to shift. Not, I cannot say slowly, but it just a shift, something shift inside me. I suddenly realized that every person receives different lessons, and a teacher does not guide everyone in the same way. Some people need protection, some people need encouragement, some people need patience and softness, and some people may need to become stronger through direct impact and pressure. And the teacher is the one sees things that we ourselves cannot see. Because honestly, we ourselves cannot clearly see our own karma, attachments, weakness, and patterns. We only see our emotions in the moment. We only see the part that feels painful. But perhaps, not perhaps, I'm sure. But the teacher is looking at something much larger and much longer term. So I finally understood this part of the story, and I understood why the teacher is treating me like that. And even I feel sad. I, actually, my colleague told me that everyone in the academy knows that the teacher treats you so well. He treats you the best. I feel so happy, yeah. And I suddenly remembered a sentence from the book. It talks about confirming the correctness of the guru's strict guidance, and from it, obtaining the strength to endure and to train oneself. So again, I want to read it several times for the very important sentence, confirming the correctness of the guru's strict guidance, and from it, obtaining the strength to endure and to train oneself. So when I read that sentence before, I only understood intellectually. But now, after actually experiencing certain things, I suddenly feel the weight of those words much more deeply. Because true acceptance is not easy, especially when you feel hurt, especially when you feel unfairly treated, especially when your heart is full of grievance. At those moments, the mind naturally compares. Why are others treated differently? Why is my situation like this? Why do I have to endure this? But I started realizing that comparison itself is part of the test. Because once comparison appears, suffering immediately appears. And the true cultivation is learning how to continue walking your own path without constantly measuring your treatment against others. So, whether different people receive different work arrangements or whether people are treated different emotionally, I feel that I need to keep reflecting on this story again and again. The real point is whether I can sincerely accept the lesson that belongs to me. And the teacher is already using the best possible method for each person, even if that method does not feel comfortable at all in that moment. So I also have started telling myself, do not only look at the pain itself, try to look at what this experience is trying to shape inside you. Maybe the entire process is training. Yes, the entire process is training. So I also remember another sentence. Superior practitioners improve every day. Average practitioners improve every month. And even lower level practitioners improve year by year. And then I thought about something funny. And so many senior practitioners around me have already taught me that my understanding is actually quite good. So if that is true, then obviously I should become the kind of person who improves every single day. So after calming down, I started feeling grateful for everything that happened during this period. Not because it felt pleasant while it was happening. Honestly, it felt extremely painful. But you will realize that something inside me become more stable than before. And what made me happiest was not that the challenges disappeared. What made me happiest is realizing that after all of those struggles, the deepest voice inside me was still saying, stay, continue, carry this path forward. And I feel very certain. So if a person still wants to continue even after pain, confusion, disappointment, or exhaustion, then maybe the heart has already made its real choice. So maybe this is only the beginning of the training, the real training on you from the teacher. So let's see what is the result. Can I solve it? Can I take it? Hi, hello, our old friends here. Nice to see you. Hi, Goofy. Wendy told me her kid can tell me the. Hey, Goofy, if you want any information about Wendy, please ask her. Okay. Yes. Please ask Wendy about Wendy's information. Sorry, I'm drinking coffee. Okay, these are for my live session today. And today I'm sharing my personal experience and struggles these days. Thank you for companion, and hope everyone could abide in the true mind and never trapped by the false mind. You know, the false mind is like the clouds in the sky. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you. See you next time. If you want to try Xuemo's works, you can search his works on Amazon for Xuemo, 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 or you can check our global online shop, shop.xuemo.com. Thank you.